All right, class. I'm a little under the weather, but here's some information on semicolons lecture. I'm going to try to keep it to the stuff that most directly impacts your essays. Now, I've got a lot of free resources here from the internet to help you a practice quiz and some information on it. But let me break it down where this shows up in your essays the most often. One is right here, where it says, oops, sorry, where it says the painting was very pretty. It was destroyed in the water. One of the main functions of a semicolon is to combine two complete sentences together or two complete clauses. Things, in other words, that could stand on as their own sentence. So you can put a comma in a coordinating conjunction like for, and, nor, but, yet, or so. But this is another way to combine two complete clauses together. Also, I noticed in the essays, no matter what class I teach, almost every essay, a lot of people think that, whenever you put however, you surround it by commas. Now, that is the case when, things on both sides of the however are not a complete sentence. But in this case, the TV show was very popular is a complete sentence, and the critics disapproved is a complete sentence. So in this case, however, is acting as a conjunctive adverb. But if you want to think about it a little bit more and akin to what you've been doing so far in this class, it's working as an introductory word or phrase at the beginning of this second sentence. So it's got to have a comma after it because it's almost acting like an introductory phrase before the subject. But because we have two complete sentences that we're combining together, you need this semicolon right here because technically, like, this is a complete sentence with an introductory word, and this is a complete sentence. So we're putting them together, semicolon. Now, this one's probably not going to show up that often in your essay, but whenever you have a list of things, and that list of things has commas in it, like this example here was talking about the different places you went, or like if you ask somebody what they had for breakfast, they're like, well, I had pancakes, eggs, and bacon. Those pancakes, eggs, and bacon have commas in between it, but now you got to have a semicolon because lunch may be a comma list and dinner may be a comma list. So each one of those comma lists, like for instance, for breakfast I had orange juice, comma, eggs, comma, and waffles, semicolon. I'm sorry. Let me rephrase that. Like if somebody says, "What did you have to eat today?" and you say, "Well, today I had orange juice, comma, sausage, comma, and fruit, semicolon, a hamburger, comma, fries, comma, and a shake, semicolon, and a salad for dinner." Those semicolons separate the things you had for breakfast in the list that are things you had in a list for breakfast, things you had in a list for lunch, things you have in a list for dinner. Those semicolons separate those things in the list. All right, now colons. There's a lot of other ways to use colons, as you can see from the other materials, but this is what you're going to see the most. One thing is colons introduced a list of things. If you can kind of think of it like this, colon kind of takes the place of the phrase, for example. So the teacher will require a few things the first day of class. For example, 2 red pens, a notebook, and a USB drive. So you don't want to use a semicolon with, like, for example, such as, because that's what it literally means. It can introduce a list. All right. Another thing that it does is it kind of acts like a semicolon, but there's a stricter rule with it. If you use a colon to combine two complete sentences together, like in this example, the second one has to be an example or an extension of the first idea. Whereas a semicolon kind of takes place for, and, nor, yet, or so. And in this case, a colon introduces an example of what you're just saying. Now, you also may use these later on in an essay when you start quoting things. So, like later on in an essay, if this first sentence introduces kind of the ideas in the quote, but it's a complete sentence, and your quote's a complete sentence, then you would have like a quote mark before action and a quote mark after preference. And if that was like a research quote, like this would be in quote marks, and like this is a complete sentence. Like if you said there is a study by the CDC that specifically discussed this, semicolon, and then your quote's a complete sentence. You may use it also in that case. All right, so those are the main ways that you're going to be using these things. Now, colons are also used in addresses and all kinds of different things like that, letters, whatever. But the websites will cover that for you. I am most concerned with these issues here, what shows up in essays the most often. So I hope you find that helpful.